you can be here.
Oh, I'm here, but I'm
Yeah.
fine.
Okay. All right. All right. So I am making us live on Instagram and fabulous. All right. Well, we are live. So I'm Lisa Kastner. I'm the founder of Running Wild, which now has 4 imprints. And this month we are featuring some of our fantabulous poets. And we get to start with Larry. And honestly, I just need to say, Larry, I still adore the time we spent together working on American Cycle. Just putting it out there.
Yeah, I
And
feel the same.
it just such an absolute distinct pleasure. And so for anyone who's watching, yes, we are going to focus on more so the Amelia Earhart piece in American Cycle. But what I've put out there is if there's anything else that we want to talk about, Larry, like let's do it, right? Because
Yeah.
I think people they should know how wonderful you are. So boom.
Right.
Cool. So well, let's start in 2 ways. One, what inspired you to do American Cycle and the concept behind it, and then let's focus on Amelia Earhart, if that's cool.
Okay. Well, American Cycle around 1970, a long time ago.
Oh my!
I had a dream, not a dream in the night, but a dream in the day, of doing for America what Shakespeare had done for England, like tell all their stories and their histories and their folklore in these longish poems, really, that were couched as plays. And I thought that I was tired of writing plots and characters. I thought that those are literary devices that are wonderful in the hands of Chekhov or Tolstoy, but it's been done. So now you're going to write something that's like almost as good as Tolstoy, but not really. So I thought maybe, and life doesn't happen in plots, and people don't really have characters that you can sum somebody up with 3 or 4 adjectives. They're a universe of possibility. And so I was searching for a way of finding other ways of organizing an artistic project of 100 pages, a poem.
Wow.
But not using plot or character. As a matter of fact, in Amelia Earhart, there's a passage where I collate all the different adjectives that were applied to her in her lifetime, and in people's vain attempt to identify her mystery. And she said, that's just a cloud of words through which I fly.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Yeah. So that was the idea, finding still having structure, but not the structure of plot, and still having people, but something deeper and more mysterious than character.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. So
then over after getting that idea, I spent about 20 years writing the first 3, Paul Bunyan, Chief Joseph, and P.T. Barnum. And then what happened was that I was looking for the next one, and because I thought there should be a number of them. And I thought, well, okay, we're kind of done the 19th century. How about the 20th century? And how about a woman instead? We've done 3 men, do a woman. And also 2 of the 3 were comedies. The second one was a tragedy. How about something tragic, like a tragic 20th century woman? And immediately Amelia Earhart sprang to mind. I didn't know nothing about her, nothing. And as a matter of fact, I thought, Amelia, I couldn't see her. I couldn't connect to her. And so I was really dubious about doing Amelia Earhart, but I thought, it wouldn't hurt to do a little bit of research. So I went to my library here in Portland, and I went over and I picked up this book, Amelia, Pilot and Pearls, which is photographs and texts, including poems by her. And I opened it at random to this page.
Oh, wow.
And what happened, now you have to understand that I was a real unbeliever. I thought that spirits and visions and things like that were just wishful thinking. But holding that book, kneeling by the bookshelf and holding that book and looking into her face, I heard her voice in my head say, "Tell my story. It hasn't been told."
Oh boy.
And then I thought, in answer, "I'm a man. Can I do it?" And she said, "Go ahead." And the thing is, that was my one and only visionary experience. But I still remember it, and now I was committed to finding out what her story was, and the reason she said that is because for the last really 100 years, it's still going on. You still see it in the news. People trying to find her lost aircraft from her last flight. Everybody has been concentrating, because she was so much loved, they've been concentrating on her death instead of her life. But her life was full of achievements. So this is completely wrong. All those people who are searching for her plane are looking in the wrong place. And she even thought that the idea that because it's a woman who perished as an explorer, that we make a big deal out of it. But if it happens to a man, that's just par for the course. And she thought that was a sign of the different ways that society treats women involving unfairness. So she, and it's something I learned about the world from studying her life, is that life is really important. Death is just a footnote.
And we seem to forget that. We seem to focus on keep within anyone's life.
Yes.
Those singular moments instead of, to your point, the epic moments.
I was committed, and then she was a good writer herself. Wrote some poetry and a lot of prose. A book called "The Fun of It," which is describing why she was flying for the fun of it. And last flight, even her last flight, she sent home her writings at each leg of the journey until the very last. So was a beautiful book. And then her sister, Muriel Earhart, wrote a book called "My Courageous Sister" that gave you the inside view of her life from the beginning. So I learned all about her. And actually, if you can read any number of Earhart biographies, if you can find something in there that's not in my poem, I'll give you a prize.
No.
Because
cool.
it's all there. I was even thinking tonight about how there were some important moments that I had not covered, and there's this part in the beginning where she imagines drowning, and you go down 3 times, and then you see your life pass before your eyes. Well,
Oh.
I did that as a little experimental poem with no punctuation, and I
Mm.
put in there all the details that I had not put in the rest of the poem.
Oh,
So
wow.
actually everything is there. Yeah,
Well, I mean, so you already mentioned that she had a miraculous life, a remarkable life.
yes.
Was there anything that as you were deconstructing, that you were investigating, you were doing your research, that you said, "Oh my gosh, I have to include this. This is absolutely critical."
Well, the critical part, and it was an education to me, is that the oppression of women is ongoing. It's fine that we're nominating them for president. We're getting there, but let me know the day when women make the same amount of money for the same job across the board. Then we'll
Mm,
know that liberation has come. But she was living back in the teens, 20s, and 30s in thoroughly under the oppressive culture that we have. As a matter of fact, her very first flight in an airplane, she wasn't allowed to. They had to have a man
mm.
fly it, and then they had to have a man sitting next to her in case she became hysterical and jumped out. And she's
Wow.
saying, I'm a cool customer. You don't have to do this. And they said, no, that's the rules. So
You
that
know,
was her first one.
it's funny, even in today's market, technically speaking, I own my home,
Yeah,
but my husband had to actually sign off stating that
yeah. There
he
we go.
had no, and we're in what? We bought our house in, I think, 2013.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's pretty prominent. Um,
But what I learned was that in the face of this oppression, uh, she liberated herself. She
oh,
created, really almost single-handedly,
mm,
the role of uh, uh, explorer of the air and of the aeroplane,
mm,
um, and and succeeded. She became so much beloved that she could do lecture tours after a
mm,
major flight, and people adored her, and and that uh, gave her power over her own life. But
mm,
she had to do that herself. It's called self-liberation,
mhm.
not waiting for somebody up in the clouds who has power to dole it down to you, but taking it for yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Was
and
there any
yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
and that's on every page.
That's fantastic. Um, is there anything that really surprised you as you were diving into her life?
I think her the I think the most surprising thing is her grace as a writer, both of
Mm,
poetry and prose. Really, her books, like The Fun of It, are beautifully written.
mm,
I don't know where she came by this either. She just had an ordinary Midwest education, but when, but she was inspired by poetry,
Mm.
and I think that informed her prose, and that was surprising.
Oh, fascinating. I mean, what kind of an emotional ride do you feel as though readers can anticipate?
Yeah, it it ends in joy. So the I deal with the different crazy theories of her disappearance in the beginning,
Mm.
and then brush that aside, and then talk about her on her last flight, thinking about her life. Um,
Mm.
what I'm sorry, what was her question?
Oh no. So
Oh, the
what kind of an
emotional
emotional
ride.
ride?
The
Yeah.
emotional ride, yeah. There are moments of tension, like when she tried to duplicate the crossing of the Atlantic that Lindbergh had done 5 years earlier. Many women, a number of women had died in the attempt to
Mm.
cross the Atlantic solo. She then decided to try, and she gets halfway across the Atlantic Ocean, and her plane catches on fire.
Oh my.
And one of the parts of the engine was now burning. And she thought, I have a lot of fuel. I could go back. And she just decided to go on. So there's moments of real tension, but in the end, it's a poem she would have approved of because it ends with more and more insight into the joy of flying. I
Mm.
even start with her as a child wanting to get up on the backs of horses, like the horse of the milkman.
Mm.
They would be delivering the milk. She'd get up and be on the back of the horse, and then I have her later and flying over some archipelago and
Mm.
dreaming that she's still on a horse.
Oh wow.
So it's like her obsession with being on high uh, runs through her whole life,
Mm.
and all she achieved and her love of flying, I hope, are completely clear to the reader.
Mm. What did you find to be the hardest to write in American Cycle?
Yeah. And the whole cycle.
Yeah.
Well, there. It took 47 years to write.
Mm.
I was born in 1947, so it took the century 47 years to give birth to me, and then
Wow.
me
Ow.
47 years to write the poem.
Mm.
But there are so many answers to that question. I'll just give one,
Okay.
and that is that when I started this, I was about 20 years old, and not that good of a writer. I had some little explosions like Song to the Siren that's become a modern standard, but my other songs, not that good, and my poetry was derivative, and so so I had this vision of American Cycle, but and I wanted to do Paul Bunyan. I was really inspired about it, and I had a lot of sources: David Crockett almanacs, the writings of Constance Rourke, and things like that. And besides all the Bunyan stories for kids, but I wasn't a good enough writer to pull it off.
Mm.
So it took 7 years for me to write this 100-page poem. And the reason is that I started anyway, but I was kind of throttling each line to death before I moved on to the next one.
Mhm.
Uh, I didn't know how to let the lines live. And then so I wrote about the first third of it, and then I discovered a way how to approach the language so that the lines were alive and weren't constrained, and wrote the rest of it. And then I went back and read the whole thing. I thought, well, it's okay, except the first third is written by an amateur, so I redid it uh,
Wow.
from the start, because I had to learn to be a good enough writer to finish it.
Mm.
And I went back and did the first third, and now it's just fine. People laugh all through it.
Excellent.
But I will tell something else
Yes.
that's strange and sort of on a sidebar, and that is that in the 20 years of Paul Bunyan, Chief Joseph, and P.T. Barnum, for me, writing was torture. I have a really high standard of beauty, of verbal beauty. It's something that I can find in Shakespeare, especially later Shakespeare, in almost every line. But how to achieve it, and I can't do it like him, I have to do it like me.
Yeah.
And find that sound and that beauty. And it was torture because I would be in physical pain from writing a line that wasn't beautiful enough. So, and this went on for 20 years. And then something happened with Amelia Earhart. I had this way. I was going to write it in an old form called the complaint,
Mm.
like William Shakespeare's Lucrece, one of his long poems. People don't pay a lot of attention to it.
Mm.
And also his friend Samuel Daniel wrote The Complaint of Rosamond. And these were Renaissance long poems in stanzas that told about the fall of a woman. And I thought, well, she fell out of the skies. That could qualify. So I started to use that stanza, but not English. English doesn't have enough rhymes. So I used a half rhyme invented by Emily Dickinson, where you rhyme the consonants but not the vowels. So
Oh, interesting.
street and light, that's a rhyme. And that
Mm.
gives you a certain quiet music while, yeah. And so and I started to write the whole poem in this form, and I'm talking about the different disappearance theories, and it just wasn't working. So I just switched to blank verse, unrhymed.
Mm.
And then that was fine. And then I got into the poem proper of her, narrating her entire life. And I started to use the half rhyme again. And something happened, something clicked in me that changed me forever after. And that is that rearranging the words, playing with the syntax, finding the half rhymes that work through a whole stanza, what I found to be an act of enormous pleasure.
Mm.
And the pain principle was replaced by the pleasure principle.
Mhm.
Now I was enjoying writing, and actually I've never looked back. It's never gone back the other way.
Hmm.
I don't know what that some person that understands people, not me, will explain it, but I don't know why, but it's real.
Oh, I love it. Um, how do you feel that this has changed you? You've mentioned a few things, but uh, what do you feel was the most significant change?
Mm, well, a man writing the story of a woman, and especially a man born in the 40s, brought up in the 50s. I don't know. I
I don't
don't
know.
know. I don't know if he's the right guy for the job. So I read uh, The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir. One of the things she does in there is talk about metaphors and how we've embedded patriarchy into the ways that that we talk about the world.
Mhm.
And those metaphors are old and wrong and don't make for good poetry. And I was starting to use them, and she really opened my eyes and made me see things fresh. And
Mm,
I do think I have a female component in my soul, and I've been liberated by both the principal women in my life,
mhm,
and so that allowed me, I think, to write a poem that rings true to women.
mm.
Shakespeare could do it. If he can do it, I can do it.
Heck
Uh,
yeah.
not to boast, but like his portrayal of Cleopatra is extraordinary and real,
Mm.
and so that's an example I try to follow.
Now, is there anything that almost didn't make it uh, well, we
Yeah,
could either
well,
into it.
yeah, I'll tell you. And this is yet another visionary story. Why it's connected to this poem, I don't understand. But
Mm.
I invented. I'm writing along, working on it almost daily, and I come up and suddenly pops into my head the perfect ending to the
Oh.
poem, and that is she's when she was a child, she used to go into the barn and get into an old disused carriage and pretend, and her sister would say, "Where are we going?" And she'd say, "We're going to Cherryville," and never arrive, of course.
Of
And
course.
that's like a metaphor for her last flight. She's going to Cherryville and not arriving. The sun's coming through there. Um, and I thought, wow, that's the perfect ending. That's fantastic. And then I was early on in the process. I forgot all about it. I
Mhm.
had notes, and then I got to towards the end, and then I came up with a perfect ending where she's the morning of her last leg of her last flight. She walks out and kind of salutes her beautiful aeroplane.
Mm.
And I thought, wow, that's a perfect ending. And then the next day, I realized to my horror that I had two endings and I couldn't throw either one out. I couldn't do it.
Mm.
I didn't know what to do. I was going to have to lose one, and I didn't know how to solve that. And then I had a dream, not like any dream I've ever had. As a matter of fact, it checks off a lot of the near death experience check boxes. And that is, I saw a golden light. It was before me and it was also inside of me. And this golden light was God or Shakespeare or and it filled my mind. The gold was very bright, but it didn't hurt your eyes. You could just gaze into it.
Mhm.
And when it was inside me, I felt my imagination was stronger. And either I was told or I saw how to nest the Cherryville story into walking out. That could be something she remembers as she's walking out to the plane. So that was the solution of how to include both beautiful endings.
I love it.
And with angelic help, I finished the poem.
Who do you feel as though are going to fall hardest for American Cycle?
I wrote it for the whole country. So, you can search up and down through the works of Robert Lowell and John Berryman and so on. You won't find any poems that are written for a lumberjack to read. It's like they think that lumberjacks don't matter, but they do matter. They came up with some wonderful stories, variants of Davy Crockett and original lumberjack stories. They're all over around here in Oregon and elsewhere, and it's a real part of the stream of pioneer culture that made this country. But you won't find any of these big league poets writing poems for lumberjack like they don't matter, but they matter to me. And you could take that book and give it to a lumberjack, and he'd read it through and laugh his ass off and think, wow, and not only that, it's beautiful. So that's just the beginning. That's just the opening pages. The book is really for the whole country. It's my gift back after giving me the country.
Well, by the way, perfect segue to my next question.
Okay.
So let's say someone starts, they pick it up, they start with the first 20 pages.
Yeah.
What'll keep them going?
Well, one thing that will keep them going is the notes in the back, because the first 20 pages are kind of condensed. It's U.S. Rivers Highway 1, and where time doesn't exist, so things from different times occupy the same space, and it's all American history and legend. So reading the notes in the back are a real good guide to sort of orient yourself. The other thing I would say is, just read about 10 pages a day, and then in about 3 months, you'll be all the way through an American epic.
Honestly, I'd be shocked if it took them 3 months, because I still remember us working together, and there's no way I don't think it should take anyone that long. But
it's modular, so if you're really interested in Wyatt Earp, a Western, you could just jump in there. They're not they're in sort of chronological order, but it doesn't have to be read that way. It could be read by what sparks your interest.
Oh, wow. Actually, great point. Now I have to ask, because we both know that I'm a huge Larry Beckett fan. What other works have you come out with more recently, and what would get people engaged in it? Why should they pick them up?
Yeah, a great question. And the first one is Song to the Siren from Holbath Press in Minnesota. And this is my collected song lyrics in through like 50 years of songwriting.
Wow.
Most of them have been set to music, and all in the back there's extensive notes talking about where these recordings are.
Oh boy.
It includes not only Song to the Siren, but an essay on the genesis of that song and my translations of it into French and Italian.
And what made you say that you had to put that out now?
It just seemed right. It seemed like it's not by any means every lyric I've ever written, which is what they include in Dylan's anthologies.
Mm.
This is a selection of only the very best. So I felt that I had reached a point. My grandson had been born. I wrote a song to him, and I thought, that's kind of a wrap on this. It makes a nice book as it is.
Oh, lovely.
And and though they are song lyrics, they're in that realm of fusion between poetry and song, so they can be read as poems, definitely. And then just night before last, we had the book launch of my translations of Paul Verlaine, the late 19th century French symbolist poet.
Oh, lovely.
It's called Romances Without Words / In Solitary. It's 2 books by him, translated by me with the original French text. And the thing about that is he was running around with his lover, another great French poet, Arthur Rimbaud, and wrote Romances Without Words with Rimbaud encouraging him to experiment. And the experiment was songs that don't, or poems that are more like songs and don't necessarily mean anything, but give you a feeling. The sound gives you a feeling, or the images give you a feeling. A different way of writing that's still edgy. And then Rimbaud tried to leave him, and Verlaine pulled a pistol and shot at him.
Oh my!
Wounding him in the wrist. And so for that, they put him in prison sentenced him to 4 years. And they said, you can do 2 years if you do it in solitary. And he said, can I have a pen and paper? In solitary, he wrote many of the best poems that he'd ever written. And then he got out and went to his publisher with this manuscript and said, well, what do you think? When can we come out with it? And the publisher said, are you crazy? You're a disgrace. You're a felon. I'm not going to put out a book called In Solitary. You're a criminal. And yeah, that's by Livingston Press. And so what happened was, through the years, he would take poems from the prison manuscript and stick them in other books so nobody would notice. But in doing so, he rewrote them and weakened them. They weren't as strong as the original one. So the prison manuscript was not published in French until 2013.
Oh, wow. Oh, my.
I thought that's criminal. I want to talk about criminal. It's neglect. He's a major French writer, poet. So my translation in this book, this is the first English translation of the original prison manuscript.
Wow.
It is rocking the literary world. It got into Publishers Weekly, if you can believe that. An indie press of a French symbolist poet got in Publishers Weekly. So there.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, that is actually that's a feat. So
yeah, I got JPEGs to prove that it actually happened.
I love it. Oh, I absolutely love it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So in one sentence, why should people pick up, well, honestly, any of your works?
Well, I'm devoted to the 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 principles of beauty, which James Joyce translated Thomas Aquinas as being wholeness, harmony, and radiance.
Mm.
That I'm that I try to foreground verbal beauty in every line, the beauty, the melody of language, and the nuances of the overtones of the words. Each of the books in American Cycle is inspired by a different kind of speech.
Mm.
So it could be Wild West lingo in Wyatt Earp, and lumberjack slang in Paul Bunyan. And so I think getting started on any of the books would make someone want to look for more.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Now, before we, well, honestly, all of your books can be found anywhere.
Yeah.
So heavily encourage individuals to go to your local bookseller, just give them the ISBN, give them the title, give them Larry, and they can order them, I'm sure, from anywhere. But before we sign off, is there anything else that we want to chat about? Anything else we want to discuss?
Yeah, I've kind of come out as a musician. I've been teaching myself to sing and play piano and guitar for many years, and I was surrounded by great musicians in the early days, and I thought they were the musicians and I was the poet, and as a matter of fact, back then I couldn't hold a tune, but recently, not too long ago, my wife told me, Larry, you're a musician. I sing to her every night, and I guess I crossed the unseen line. So I'm now doing concerts around town, some of which are popping up on YouTube.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah, so there's that, and then I always have new projects I'm trying to get. I wrote a play in verse about a Tang Dynasty monastery in China. Naturally, of course, why would I not write that?
Of
And
course.
of course, it's just so obvious, and I'm writing. I'm now currently working on publishing my sonnets.
Oh, fabulous.
50 years of those, where I wrote about one a year over half a century. And there's 70 in all. Many of them have been published in important literary journals. So I'm really happy about that. And then I'm still composing poetry too, of course.
Of course. As you should.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And with that, as always, Larry, it is such a distinct pleasure to have an opportunity to chat.
The pleasure was all mine, Lisa.
And looking forward to our next opportunity to sit down and be sarcastic, as we're very good at doing.
Fantastic. I said ironically.
All right. Absolutely perfect.
Okay.